Hello, I'm Rachel.
I'm Victoria.
And I'm Farren.
We've been friends and classmates since childhood with a common love for good books.
Join us as we revisit the books from our literature class days, timeless reads, and everything in between.
Let's go back to lit class. Hello, welcome back, and welcome to this very special bonus episode of Back to Lit Class podcast. Welcome, Farren and Victoria.
Hey.
Hello.
We are back. It's only halfway into January, and we had we were on the struggle bus December and January.
December was a hard month.
Apparently there's like holidays in December that people celebrate and then they travel, so you don't like read a lot of books or record a lot of podcasts in that time.
Especially when you have kids that have class parties and Christmas programs and
then they get sick, all of them.
And yes, and then you get sick, and then they get sick with something else, and then you get sick with something else. Or was this just my experience?
Great fun. Nope. Great fun. But we're going to wrap up our year of reading, 2022, and kind of talk about each of our favorite reads from the year and our least favorite reads from the year. And also like what we're looking forward to in 2023. So we'll start with our favorite reads. Farren, what was your favorite book in 2022?
So my favorite book, or I guess series, was Harry Potter. I reread it. And they were the best books I read this year. I had a rough reading year, but Harry Potter was still great. It's fantastic.
I still have not read all of the Harry Potter books.
Yes, and you should be shamed for it. They're so good.
I've only read the first book, and I liked it. Like, it wasn't like I didn't like it. I have a hard time with series.
When did you read it? How old were you?
I read it in like 2017.
That's funny because I love a good series.
Yeah, if it can maintain value, then I'm all in. I'm actually looking for a good series right now. I need to just get into something that I can continue for a while.
Okay.
And I will say that my favorite was the second book of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, which was A Court of Mist and Fury, that Farren is very skeptical about reading.
I don't know. The last book you recommended to me, I did not like. So
I haven't read it.
Apparently, a lot of people DNF'd that book or did not finish that book series. So you're
Really?
not alone in that. Yeah.
Okay.
But people that like ACOTAR still really like. There's a lot of people that didn't like that book series that really still like Sarah J. Maas's books.
Yes, I might give it a shot. What did you like about it?
There's just like a lot of really good characters. I'm really drawn to like the found family book trope. Harry Potter has a lot of that same like aspect to it. And there's just some really good thought out. Like it wasn't like you can tell that she like planned out the whole series before she like started writing. Like she had an idea of where she was going with it from like throughout the books. It wasn't just like she wrote the first book and then was like, now what can I do? So the books make a lot of connections. Like I reread the first one after I finished the series because you find out information that makes more sense in the first one. It's just like a series.
Well, I might give it a shot.
But it gets ragged on because people are as obsessed with like the ACOTAR series as people are with like Harry Potter, Twilight, Lord of the Rings. It's kind of in one of those kind of genres.
Yeah, I was just at the gym last night and I saw someone with one of the books. I see people carrying them around all the time.
We can move off of Victoria's trashy fantasies.
Yeah.
My favorite book, well, I have two favorites. My favorite fiction book was The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles, because I think he is just a really phenomenal storyteller, and the way he develops his characters and weaves them together, it's just really beautiful. I feel like I can reread any of his books because there's just a lot of depth in his writing. So yeah, I really liked that. And then I don't read series a lot, but I feel like once I find an author that I like, I'll read like all of their stuff. So I read almost all of Ann Patchett's nonfiction stuff, and I read This Is the Story of a Happy Marriage, and I really liked that. It was like a collection of essays, or like it's pretty like autobiographical just of her life and the people she has met. It was really good.
Yeah, I really like Anne Patchett. I read The Dutch House this year, and that was up there.
Yeah, that's like the only one of my goals for next year is to read more of her fiction, because I've read a lot of her nonfiction, but The Dutch House is the only fiction I've read of hers. But I liked it. I didn't realize that they were the same. Like when I read This Is the Story of a Happy Marriage, I didn't realize that Anne Patchett was the same Anne Patchett that wrote The Dutch House.
Okay, I was gonna say, did they seem similar, like the writing styles? Or I like it when an author can, like, you read a book and you can't even tell, like it's always different.
I don't know, because there was such a long time gap between. I read The Dutch House first, and like several years ago, so I don't really remember. I mean, it had pretty interesting characters though, so that makes sense. There's a lot of her nonfiction involved different people. All right, let's do the fun. Let's do our least favorite. Now, are we including books that we didn't finish because they were so bad, or are we only including books that we did finish?
We can include our DNF'd books.
Let's just do both.
Okay.
I'm mostly excited to do my DNF because Farren and I are going to rag on each other.
Yeah. So the book I did not finish this year was the second book in the Blood and Ash series. That's what it's called, right?
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it.
It got so
it's a raunchy
muddy.
thing.
The first book I got through and I was like, okay, it's all right. And then I tried the second one, and I don't know what happened, but it's like, let's ramp up the smut 30 times. Boom, 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 boom.
It really is.
Scene after the other. I'm like, didn't they just have sex? Didn't we do this already? And then like the plot would stop for pages.
Okay. In my defense, I really liked the series, not because of the smut in it. I actually really liked it because of the fantasy plot in it. I thought it was interesting and good. I would have read the series minus the really raunchy stuff.
Yeah, I think it would have been better without that.
it honestly, I agree with that.
So Victoria's least favorite, or is that all yours, Farren?
Well, I also have a least favorite that I did finish. And it was one of our book club books. It was Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. It was a weird take on like modern day vampires. It was not great. I think she first wrote it in 2016 or something, and it didn't get published. And then they just brought it out in 2021 or something. And I was like, I don't know why. It was just so bad. Honestly, it was horrible. It was boring and weird. But I read her another book by her, Mexican Gothic, which was much better. So, and that she wrote that later, and that's her book that's the most popular, and it is definitely much better. But that was probably the worst book I finished. Okay, Victoria, what's yours?
So the one that I could not get into and didn't finish was Off to Be the Wizard that Farren recommended.
I did. I knew you were gonna say that one.
And I was doing it via audiobook, and I gave it probably an hour longer than I should have listening. But I could not get into it. I was like, I have listened to this for like 3 hours and I still don't know what the plot of this book is.
It's silliness. That's the plot. It's just pure silliness.
Like, I like the idea of the book. Seemed like very interesting, but I just could not get into it. And so I did not finish that one. And then my least favorite book that I finished was Small Town Big Magic. It felt lacking. Like, it could, again, when I was like reading about the book, it seemed like it would be a really good storyline for like more of like a cozy fantasy book that deals with witch magic, but it just wasn't. It's almost like the book should have been a little bit longer so that she could have gotten more in depth with the plot. It just seemed like I kept rewriting the book in my brain when I was reading it. Like, I feel like they should have done this instead. Or maybe we could have like added a few chapters and like went more in depth with this whole situation. So it was fine. Like, I finished it, but I was like, I'm not going to read. I thought it was a standalone book, but it's the first book in what's supposed to be like a 3-book series. And I'm not going to read the next ones. What about you, Rachel?
Let's see. Where to begin? My least favorite ones were...
You only read 12 books.
I read 14 books.
You only read 14 books.
I read 14.
14. Get it right, Victoria.
That's not including books I read with my kids. Family read-along books, right? Are you guys including those or not?
I include anything middle grade and up.
Because we read like a Narnia book and like
I
we
would
read
include that.
chapter books.
Yeah. It's a chapter book. We read Holes for our podcast, Rachel.
I did include that. Don't worry.
I would include it.
I did not love The Midnight Library. Is it like Matthew Haig? I don't know. It's a really popular book. Everyone like from lots of different places of life loved this book, and I did not love it.
What did you not like about it?
It was sad. It was so sad. It's too like, I don't know. I just didn't.
You like happy endings.
I go to books to feel happier, not sadder.
You might have liked his other book, The Humans.
I'm probably not gonna. Well, I don't know. And
it's
then
very different. I've read both. It's so different.
Okay.
Don't do any spoilers for Midnight Library because it is on my TBR because my sister Melanie, it was like one of her top books that she read.
Like, don't read this book. Like it's fine. I get why people like it. I personally just did not need that in my life. The other ones that I didn't finish, which also I realized I lied because I did get like 75% of the way through Commonwealth, which was a really popular Ann Patchett book. And again, great characters, too much death and sadness. Can't handle that. So I didn't finish that one. I guess I didn't have any books that I just like would not recommend to people.
I had a lot.
Saw on your notes that you said it ends with us.
Yeah, which I'm actually currently reading.
Like decided I don't think I want to read any Colleen Hoover because they all.
It's not.
Everybody's like, this book wrecked me, and I'm like, I don't want to be devastated.
Yeah, it was a tough read.
Why didn't you like that one? Without spoiling it, I'm 15% in.
I'm trying to remember the plot of the book, and I'm thinking I remember it, but I could be wrong. But it was like it had like some like abuse in it, and I just was like, nope, I don't.
It was the father was abusive to the mother of Lily.
Yeah, yeah.
And Lily was the main character, and she opened a flower shop.
Yep, I remember this now. This is not my favorite.
I'm liking it so far. I just don't know where it's gonna go.
Don't know what to tell you.
You're like, it's going to
like,
did not finish that.
Going anywhere. That's what you're gonna say when you finish it.
So, what are we most looking forward to reading in the new year? Do we have any books that we're really excited about that's on our to be read list, or what?
Farren's gonna read 170 books.
No, my goal is 70 this year, but I think I'll go over it. We'll see. I didn't want to. Last year.
No, we're just talking.
I'm sorry. Most looking forward to.
Forward to reading.
Only looking ahead.
Okay, Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I'm looking forward to that. It's been recommended to me a few times. I think it's fantasy. I don't really actually know what it's about, but I've heard it's really great, and so I'm looking forward to reading that. And then more classics. I'm going to read Fahrenheit 451 and Dracula. I was supposed to read Dracula this year, but I failed. So moving it to next year.
Well, my goal is to read up my reading target from 14 books to 20 books, which is like just under 2 books a month, which feels very sustainable for me.
It's a good goal.
Guys, I did get the Libby app, and so I can get audiobooks and books on my Kindle like easier.
I can't believe you didn't have that before.
Well, did I tell you we were using some kind of like shady?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how I was reading my Kindle books, and they're like, "Oh, that's probably not right." So, and the website was shut down. So
that's a good sign.
So 2 books a month feels like I can do that. I'm most looking forward to reading. Oh, I want to read. I don't know if you've read any of Taylor Jenkins' her book. I'm trying to think of another one. Malibu Rising was one. It was really popular a couple of years ago. Anyways, her newest one, Carrie Soto, is back, which actually probably came out a couple of years ago, but I haven't read it yet, and I really want to read it. So I'm probably most looking forward to that and Canto by Ann Patchett. unless it has a lot of death, and then I won't like it.
Okay, Victoria.
I am looking forward to Priory of an Orange Tree. It's been on my TBR for like a year. And then I've also heard some really good things about the Daughter of No World series. It's a fantasy series. So is Priory of an Orange Tree. So I'm looking forward to reading both of those. And then I also just got Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton. It's his biography book of some sort, and I'm kind of excited to read that because love me some Harry Potter, and Tom Felton is just a cool guy.
That's awesome. I might
And
read
when
that
I
one
showed
too.
Rachel the
Yes,
book,
I remember like, oh.
Rachel was like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "Tom Felton? You don't know who Tom Felton is?"
She was doing all of her unboxing of her books, and she like shows me. She's like, "I'm so excited to read this book." It shows me the back. She's like, "It's
Draco
so and so."
Malfoy.
I'm like, "Mm-hmm." I'm like racking my brain from like old TV shows or like where in the world.
It was literally a picture of him from
Harry
like one of the first movies on the back of the book.
Good
like,
for him. He's
Draco
getting
Malfoy.
so much monies now.
I'm excited. So, that's one of my nonfiction books for the year.
Yes, then you'll have one. I might read that one too. That sounds really good. I'm always down for Harry Potter things. So.
We should do an episode on like what our genres are, because Victoria, I'm like, she is a fantasy reader. Like fantasy is your thing. Farren, I don't know what you.
I'm all over the place.
And pretentious snob.
Yeah, I don't know. You can like plow through books even if you hate them.
I've
Maybe
tried to not do that.
It's a free time flex. So
yeah,
I hate this book so much. I'm gonna keep reading it.
I try not to do
just
that.
read a book simply to be like, I read all of Shakespeare's works this year.
I would literally do that.
Any of it, but
you
I
would.
read it, and I am cooler than you.
No, I've only read one Shakespeare. I did like it. Much Ado About Nothing.
We read Shakespeare in high school, but
I don't count that because I don't remember.
Will
any
that
of it.
be one of the reads we do?
We read like an
podcast
excerpt of it too, because it was in like our big, huge. Remember those literature books were huge, but it just had like excerpts of famous works in them.
Yeah.
Listen, I found. Remember when we redid Julius Caesar, and we made a movie and modernized it? Listen, the video horribly embarrassing.
Wait, was I there?
Veto that.
No, you weren't in the class.
I want to see it so bad.
They're terrible.
No one else to see it.
I remember we watched Romeo and Juliet, like a true Shakespeare rendition.
For our class, when we watched Romeo and Juliet, Mrs. had to fast forward through the scene where they showed his butt, and she messed up. She like didn't get to it fast enough. She was like covering the screen with her hands. She's like, "Don't look on your butt."
Fired for this.
She was so short she couldn't try to jump.
So silly.
Good times.
So, what are your guys' 2023 reading goals for this year, Victoria?
So, in 2023, I really want to read some nonfiction. Probably not a ton because it's just not my favorite thing to read, but I'm definitely wanting to branch out and, push myself towards reading something like that. Yeah, just not reading the rom-com or fantasy books, which is what I normally read. I do want to read the Trevor Noah one that you have been wanting me to read for a long time. That is on my TBR. So
that one's so good. Can't disappoint.
But I've heard it's better audio book-wise. So that might be one of my audiobooks that I do this year. I feel like Rachel will probably have better nonfiction recommendations for me. Or I even just want to read like fiction that's not like in the genre of like romance, romantic comedy, or fantasy. And I feel like Rachel
I could recommend some
better recommendations that would be more along lines of something that I would enjoy versus Farren.
Yeah. I can just see that you hate me. It's written all over your words.
You just need to like suffer through the books, Victoria, like Farren does.
And then you'll read so many books.
Rachel, what are your goals for the year?
Well, I think I said that already, that I want to read 20 books. I want to read more of Ann Patchett's fiction. I want to read more memoirs. And I think I like to listen to memoirs on audiobook. So like the Trevor Noah, it is a really good audiobook. I don't know. I like when the author reads their own stuff. It feels more like a podcast, and I like podcasts, but I have a harder time with like fiction audiobooks. So I think memoirs would be a good way to read those. Yeah, those are kind of my main goals.
And I just want to like branch off here for a second, because we kind of talked about this before we started recording and haven't brought it up since. But I want to talk about how many books we each read last year.
Oh, geez. How many books did you guys read?
I read 65 books.
Good for you. Gold star.
Which was less than the year before, when I read 80.
Spoiler, guess what? You're going to read fewer books this year.
It's going to be more.
I'm going to predict it right now.
You'll be wrong. I already set my list at 70. I've never missed it, except for the first time. But that was before I was a true reader.
Victoria, how many books did you read?
I wasn't really keeping track, but when I went back through and counted, it was something like 56.
Oh my goodness.
And that's not including the books that I read and then reread.
You should count those as I
reread books that I've already read before.
I don't know how you reread like so soon after.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, I wait like years.
Because the book have like stuff that comes out, and then you go back and reread it, and there's like stuff that's like revelations from the first book from the subsequent books.
I think this year I'm going to start rereading more. I've always been very like anti-rereading books just because I want new content, but 2022 is such a horrible reading year that I'm like, if I reread books, I'm guaranteed to enjoy them.
Like, I didn't count. I think I re-listened to a couple of the Harry Potter books last year, but I didn't count that in the books I read. Counting rereading books, it would probably be closer to like 60.
Good job, guys.
Rachel, what was the number that you had? 12?
I read 14 books. 14 books last year.
But we already said you didn't include the books that you read aloud.
I was gonna say, but I had a baby. Maybe next year I will challenge. I'll like go for it and like be all numbers and like try and get past 50. But 20 just feels big. Like 20 is more than 14. I can read 20 books this year.
You can do it.
Do it.
Yeah, I believe in you.
So that's why I think I like that goal, because I know that I can do it. It's not very challenging, but I don't need to be challenged all the time.
Yeah.
It's fine. So your mental health is just better than mine. You don't have to disassociate via books all the time.
When do you read?
All the time.
Whenever
I'm like, I feel like I read any like downtime that I have.
See, that's where you're going wrong. You also have to
read when you don't have downtime.
But I don't do audio. I think audio would increase my.
A lot of my books are audiobooks. I read while I cook. I read while I'm cleaning, doing anything, laundry, dishes.
All right, Farren, what are some of your goals for next year, this year?
Well, besides my reading number, which is 70, I want to read better books this year because it was terrible. I don't know. I think this has just been one of the worst reading years. I don't know why. I just picked bad books, I guess. So I want to kind of stay on my to reads list a little bit more. And I want to read more classics and more fantasy. Because fantasy is like my favorite genre, and I didn't read very much this year.
Guys, I don't think I could tell you how much more I hate fantasy.
It's so fun.
Even listening to you describe like your favorite fantasy books and your least favorite, I was like, this sounds terrible.
The worst part about fantasy is when you get into a new series, you have to work on the world building.
Yeah, that takes time.
So it takes a little bit to get into the series before you're able to really retain a lot of what's happening, because you're focused on just learning like names and places and
sounds too hard,
their government or hierarchy or their social structure and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it is like the very beginning of fantasy books can be a little bit like mentally, like you have to really focus. And and then you can just binge the whole series and you don't have to worry about world building for a while. But Rachel already said she doesn't like series, so
Nope.
I feel like you don't like the books that like suspend reality.
Gotta be really precise because I don't like things that are too real, depressing.
Cry.
Yeah. And I also don't like things that are so unreal. Maybe I should give it a try. Maybe this is the year that I.
You read Abby Jimenez, right?
Yes, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's like the friend zone.
Friend zone. Mm-hmm.
You would also probably like Sarah Adams because it's very similar to the Abby Jimenez.
My defined genre is PG rom-coms.
That Abby Jimenez and
That's
Sarah Adams.
but not too Nicholas
not like
Sparks-ish. That's too depressing. So I don't like when someone has to like die or have long-term illness. Don't love that.
Farren, you would not like Sarah Adams or Abby Jimenez.
I don't think so.
They wouldn't be like deep enough for you.
Yeah. Did one of them write the Happily Ever After playlist or whatever?
Yeah.
I read that
Abby.
one. It was okay.
I think that was the first one. You didn't read the first one of that series.
No.
It's like it's not a series per se, like they can be standalones, but
it felt like a standalone.
But there's like books that deal with other people from the person who works at a coffee shop or the best friend or the sister or whatever.
Someone does tragically have to die for this to end up this way. So
yes, that's true. Someone did tragically die, and that was a bit sad.
Yep.
That was the Happily Ever After playlist.
Yeah. It wasn't really that sad because it.
Well, you didn't listen to the Friend Zone.
The Friend Zone was the sad one.
And so learned about, like, you got to know that character.
Gotcha. Yeah, because in the one I read, you don't.
Dies. Spoiler alert. Someone dies.
I like books that just make you feel strongly. Yeah. I just want the feelings. I want all the feels. Every feel that I could have. I don't mind sadness, anger.
I mean, no. I don't mind feeling sad because fantasy books do have a lot of like, you do lose characters in fantasy books that they're not like, I mean, sometimes they're main characters, more main, like, side characters. But usually they're not, like, the main person. At least not in the ones that I read.
Josh really wants me to read his Brandon Sanderson...
Mistborn?
I'm not gonna lie. I don't think you would like it.
I don't think I would like any fantasy.
Do you think I would like Mistborn?
You should just try it.
Yeah, you'd probably like Mistborn. It's a different style than the fantasy you read.
I mean, I've read multiple styles of fantasy.
There's like 100 books, so
there's like 7 or something.
No, there's way more than 7.
Well, in the Mistborn series, I think there's 7.
But do you think I'm not gonna like it because there's not like a romance aspect to it? There's not like
no, it's just dense.
Oh, okay.
It's heavy world building.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I said you might like it. It's just different than the ones you typically like.
Victoria, you read it and tell me if I'll like it.
Okay, I will. That is one of the book series that's on my like fantasy TBRs, but there's a lot of those.
We have all of them. You can read them.
Because I'm probably not going to be able to do hard copies. I do lots of fantasy audiobooks. Rom-com audiobooks are garbage. They always make the main female character like ditzy. No matter. They always read her ditzy, no matter if that's like her personality trait or not. And that's super annoying because that's not always what the character should be.
Yeah,
fantasy audiobooks are by far the best. Maybe that's what you should do. You should do Mistborn audiobook and then download Candy Crush and then play Candy Crush while you're listening, because that's what I do.
Well, my kids just run around our house.
They can go wild.
Yes, exactly. Or while you take a walk, or while you wash dishes, or while you fold laundry, or while you mop the floors.
My podcast.
Look at all of them.
I like funny things.
So the next thing we have, what are ideas or things we are leaving behind in 2022 in regards to reading? Is there anything that you're not going to do in 2023? in terms of reading?
Yeah. So one of mine is to like be free from my book list because I can get very stuck in that and like only read the books that are on my list. But I want to just have more freedom to like see an interesting book and read it. What ends up happening is like I wait. Oh, I'll put it on the list and I'll just wait and wait and wait and not read it. And I think I could read more and enjoy it if I just went more with my gut than like what's on my list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still have a list because I am me, but I want to be more spontaneous with my reading. And I do kind of want to try a little bit outside of my norm. I feel like I really got to know my like lane as far as reading goes. Like I know what I like. I like memoirs. I like PG rom-com books. I like more like literary fiction like Steinbeck and Towles and like that kind of genre and historical fiction. But I want to try and branch out at least like a little bit so I'm not, I don't know, neglecting good stuff just because it's not my top pick.
What about you, Farren?
I kind of want to do the opposite because I've really strayed from my reading list. And I think that might be why I read so many books that I just really didn't enjoy this year, because my reading list is, I try to keep it strict and I try to only pick books that I hope are like really going to be really good books. But I read off of my reading list so often. I'm like, oh, I'll just read this book. It's available. And it sounds kind of cool. And sometimes that's really good. But this year just, it didn't serve me well. And I also want to like kind of, I really want to read more educational books like about gardening and about health, cooking. So I just want to kind of refocus my reading a little bit more on learning instead of just purely fun and just pleasure reading. But I also want to read more classics. I try to read at least 5 a year, but I don't think I did that this year. I think I only read like 2. So I just want to read a lot more classics. I tend to really enjoy them. I just put them off all the time. I don't know why.
Well, good thing, you know, we have maybe a couple what you would consider classics on our podcast reading list.
Yeah, but I already read them.
Farren doesn't count rereads.
I do count the rereads. I will count them.
Yeah, exactly. You're still counting them towards...
And I'll still enjoy them.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
What I am going to leave behind is feeling bad about reading what I enjoy reading. And like there's a whole thing on like TikTok about like people who read classic literature and things like that, thinking that they're better than every other reader, and that people who read things like romance, rom-com, not super in-depth, like meaty books are less than readers, which is really annoying. Or even people who like do a lot of audiobooks for reading aren't really readers. And I do a lot of audiobooks, but I did just get a Kindle Paperwhite, and I have physically read more books now that I have a Kindle than I did before I had a Kindle.
Oh, Victoria, I thought of you and you just getting a Kindle. I saw the like thing, the stand that you put your Kindle in with a remote so you can read in bed.
I told Farren
I was
about
like,
that.
Victoria's
Yeah,
gonna
It
get
has a
this.
little clicker.
Yeah.
Tell
And
me
Farren
about
was like, that sounds great. You don't have to get out from under the blanket. You just lay there and like, click.
Do you know how many times I've literally dropped my Kindle on my face falling asleep?
Why? So you're laying on your back with your like arms. I lay on my side
Sometimes
and read.
it's just not, it's not as comfortable. And so I just do the back position and I just fall asleep so fast sometimes.
Guys, I literally fell asleep just like this last night reading my Kindle pillow, this heating pad.
Great audio
I was
for
like,
the
I'm
podcast,
reading.
Victoria.
Yeah.
Visual demonstration. Anyways, sorry to interrupt.
So yeah, I'm just leaving behind guilt about what I'm reading. I am a mood reader, so if I am not in the mood for reading, like sometimes I might be in the mood to read a more classic book, or I have to be forced to by my friends when we are reading for podcast
You're
content.
welcome.
But which I like, I appreciate that, but if it was up to me, I would not probably read those on my own. I enjoy them when I do, but it's not something that I like go out of my way to pick up, if that makes sense. And I'm not gonna feel bad about it. the whole point of what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Well,
Farren.
you shouldn't.
Yeah, Farren. She's not gonna feel bad for it.
I didn't say anything.
You're judging me?
I would never judge. You guys just take all the things that I read and you create judgments that I don't say from my mouth hole.
No.
I see it in your eyeballs.
That's just to be comedic.
I can read your mind.
What am I thinking now?
I am beautiful. Look at my face.
Oh my God, you're so right. I've been literally thinking it the whole time. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't tell if I'm just so beautiful right now or if my camera is so bad. Wait, Victoria, what is your reading goal this year?
I don't have a number goal. But
Okay, it's 7.
I am already killing it. I'm already killing it.
How many books have we already read? It is, what day is today? The 20th of January when we're recording this podcast. How many books have we read just since January 1st? Victoria.
I'm about to finish my 7th one. I have an hour left.
Get out of here. Farren.
Two of them were like 20 plus hour audiobooks.
Oh my gosh. No.
So they're like 900-page fantasy.
I feel like even though I read more books than you definitely spent more time. You read the longest books.
It took you longer to read fewer books.
Yeah,
No,
should we start calculating our time read?
20-hour books.
That's the best. You get the most bang for your buck when you're buying an audiobook.
Yeah, that is true.
Farren, how many books have you read?
4. And I think I'll have 7 by the end of the month.
I've read 1.
By the end of the month.
I think I'll have 2 by the end of the month.
Right on track.
One of them should be Of Mice and Men.
Oh, maybe I'll read 3. I do need to read that one, and it's small. So
I'm going to read that one too.
Thank you for joining us for this little bonus episode with our favorites and all of what we are going to do and not do in 2023. Hope you enjoyed listening along. We have gotten our social media more under control, or what's the word? What am I looking for? Not under control.
It's there.
It's there.
We've gotten our social media there.
We have posts
up and running.
We're not ignoring it anymore. So if you go to Instagram, you can follow us at Back to Lit Class. Follow along for updates on when new episodes are coming out. And we look forward to our next episode and hope you will join us for that. We will be reading Of Mice and Men for our next.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Bye. I'm wearing your sweatshirt.
Oh, nice.
Oh, hi, Amor.
Just for the sunnies.
Oh!
I wasn't sick, though, because of health.
Victoria doesn't have time for sweatshirts that are too tight on her wrist or people who read classical books and are snooty about it.
I can try it, and then you guys can make fun of me again.